Yay, stitching party. We do know how to party, don't we? This is the best kind of party that I would ever want to go to. All right, you guys, this is the 12th episode of Friday Off the Grid Stitch With Me. And I didn't realize it had been quite that many. I mean, I realized that I put the title in when I upload them, and I do have to type that number in myself, but for some reason it didn't feel like it had been that long. I mean, that's 12 weeks. I thought it had only been about 6 or 7 weeks. So that's kind of cool that this has been going on for 12 weeks now. And it is just getting to be so much fun now with the Facebook group growing. And even though this is episode 12, this is the very first Friday that we are starting our stitch in, a virtual stitch in. 6 hours of stitching, selfish, self-compassionate, I should say. We are not selfish, are we? Stitching, where we take that time on a Friday night and we use it for ourselves to spend time doing something that we love. And the best part is knowing that there's a whole other community out there of people just like you who are doing exactly the same thing at the same time. And we're sharing our pictures, and we're encouraging each other to make some progress on these pieces, which is totally so much fun. So I know I had said yesterday that I was going to record this video on Thursday. That never happened. Life happened, and I just didn't have time to do it yesterday. So it is Friday, and we were supposed to record the Fiber Friends podcast this morning, which I had mentioned, but due to the weather, it started freezing rain here. It's been raining for at least 48 hours. It's been raining here in London. Most of our snow much of our snow has been melted away. We still have quite a bit because we had a lot to start with, but it is causing some localized little bit of flooding because, of course, the ground is frozen. There's nowhere for the water to go. And then this morning, the temperature started to drop again, and freezing rain and a little bit more snow this afternoon are in the forecast. And I know we have at least a few more Southern Ontario stitchers who are in our group, and I don't think they've appreciated me wishing for so much more snow. Missy, I'm thinking of you. I know in particular you left a funny GIF in the Facebook group of a person being knocked over by snow from a snowplow. So I gather that you are pleased that the forecast seems to have improved from, I think they were forecasting another, 20 to 50 centimeters of snow, depending on the area that you lived. But I think that's now been fairly muchly downgraded to more rain, freezing rain, and a little bit more snow, but not as much snow as we were supposed to get. I think, anyways. At least that's what is happening in our little portion of southwestern Ontario. Anyway, so as you can see, I am working on my landmark tapestry design, and I have not put a single stitch in this since the last time I worked on it. So I have been itching to get back to this one. So boy, does this ever feel nice. And this is a beautiful piece to work on for a Stitch With Me video, because even though it's probably dead boring for you, because I'm just stitching black, it is the perfect thing to stitch that I do not have to pay attention to at all. I can just zip along and put those stitches in. And frankly, it's quite nice for me to be able to chat with you while I'm doing it. So in case you have forgotten, where did it go? I'll show you here's a picture of the pattern. Savon. I think I've been calling it Sassoon, which is totally wrong. It's Savon. And the color palette is, I'm doing it all in the DMCs. So it's blues, some rust, some green, and some golds. So, and there's also, of course, there's this lighter one as well. $7.99 is in there, which I've been using. So normally I do bobbinate my threads, but I was anxious to start this and too lazy to bobbinate them. So I've just been pulling them out of the skein and leaving them on the tray that's on my floor frame. So lazy, I know. But when there's not that many colors, you know, it's fairly easy to keep track of what's what. And I'm sure I'll get to it at some point because this will probably take me most of the year to finish. But for now, I'm happy with the way it is. And because I had so much blank space on my canvas for you today, I thought I would have my little McSteamy needle minder so you'd have something a little more appealing to look at than just blank fabric. So this is I'm working on this. It is a 16 count off-white Aida. For a while, I thought I had remembered that it was an 18 count, but I'm pretty certain this is a 16 count, and I'm using two strands over for my floss. As you can see, it's not perfect coverage, and sometimes that bothers me, but on these particular pieces, it doesn't bother me at all. So I don't know. It's a very strange thing. On linen, I like to have full coverage, but on this Aida, especially when it's a full coverage piece, I don't seem to mind as much. And the ones that I've done and have framed, I've stitched all of them exactly the same way and it doesn't bother me a bit. The other thing that you're going to notice is that I do have a fold line in my fabric. You know, I did buy this fabric 6 or 7 years ago, and it has been, you know, sitting in a storage container since I bought all 10 pieces at the same time. I did not even bother ironing this before I started it. I know lots of people would have. However, I know that mostly probably isn't really going to come out perfectly. But more importantly than that, it is a full coverage piece. And when I frame it, I will be framing it right up to the border of the stitching. I don't think I left any Aida. And if I did, that's all you're going to see, right? Is 2 or 3 stitches. It's not going to make a big deal. I'm not going to worry about it. More stitching time. Less ironing, more stitching. I do enough ironing with Evertote making bags that I don't need to spend any more time ironing if I don't have to. So it is Friday, and I can hear the freezing rain outside hitting the windows. And so we decided to hold off on recording the Fiber Friends podcast until tomorrow morning, when the Salters and Sanders will have had a chance to go out on the roads and make it a little bit more safe for travel. I do love winter, but I'm a little bit of I'm not a nervous winter driver, but I prefer to stay at home. So that's what we're doing. We're playing it safe. Oh, didn't cut my needle off. I'm thinking, where's my needle? And I did not either sew it in. I neither sewed it in nor clipped it off. So there we go. Okay, so just a reminder, I know I repeat myself a lot, but I'm also well aware of the fact that we always have new people joining us who might not know the information. So bear with me. I'll be repeating myself. We have the Facebook group, called Friday Off the Grid. And I have created an event on that group for you to join us so that you can share your starting point and your finishing point for the Friday night stitch-in. And I can tell you this, our members in Australia have already completed their 6 hours, and it was so fun to see them start the party this morning and then have a look at their wonderful progress. And it made me really anticipate 6 o'clock my time so that I could have, a similar feeling of accomplishment with my progress. And I do intend to continue working on this piece tonight. My full 6 hours will be spent on this design, and I am so excited. I can't wait. So, you might be wondering if I finished the shawl that I was telling you about. Well, I'm not going to say, because I know that Louise is joining in with us tonight on Friday Off the Grid, and I don't want to give anything away. She's going to have to wait until tomorrow morning when I fess up whether I couldn't quite complete it or not. We'll see. I know that Letitia has recorded a special Friday night episode for you to enjoy, so make sure you check out the Crafty Curator for her on her channel. She has a Stitch With Me video out, and she's been working on the beautiful elephant design that she was gifted the pattern by Elena and Olivia B. Oh, those girls. Love those girls. Again, a huge shout out to Elena and Olivia B. They are sisters who they each have their own individual floss tube channels, and they're fantastic. They are really fantastic. They're so much fun. So check them out. And there's the ever wonderful Ginger Gerald Stitcher, who has his Saturday morning after party. And I think Gerald posted an update video within the last couple of days. He has his most recent update video out. So if you're looking for an extra video to watch tonight, it doesn't have to be a Stitch With Me video. If you're just watching FlossTube, check out his latest episode. I know that's on my viewing list for tonight. I'm gonna watch that. We also have Audrey, who I believe her Instagram name is StitchyWitch42. And she has started recording, and this is so funny, Off the Grid coffee break. Come on now. Off the Grid coffee break. I mean, seriously. And she's recorded already 2 or 3 episodes. I think she's got a third one out that I haven't watched yet. So I'm going to also put that on my list for tonight. And she told the best story. So that's all I'm going to say. It's literally a 6-minute long episode, 6 minutes of your life. You should go and check it out. It's totally worth it. It's such a cute story, and it's about frogs. So it was a great story. You'd really enjoy that. So go check that out. I believe there are links to all of these floss tubers in our Facebook group. So if you prefer to be more of a lurker, and let me please be the first to say that is 100% okay. Not everybody loves to chit chat or share or join in, but lots of us like to watch. We like to see what other people are doing, even if necessarily we don't really feel like sharing all the time what we have. The world is full of talkers and the world is full of listeners, and we need both. So if you would prefer to just be a listener, please, you are still more than welcome to join us over on the Facebook group. You do not have to participate. You are perfectly welcome to people are called lurkers. I don't like that word because I don't think it's a fair description of the behavior that's happening, because it's not lurker it has a negative connotation, whereas I still view people who are watching and listening as participants. You're just the quiet participants. And we need those too. It can't just be full of chit chat and no one to listen to us. So please join us. Even you do not have to share photos. You do not have to post. You do not have to do anything. Just come on over and enjoy. And if you do come over, there is a file that Letitia created last weekend with a list of floss tubers who do Stitch With Me videos. And we are adding to it all the time. If you have a Stitch With Me video and you want to add it to the list, please do. We would love to share more and to see what everybody else is working on and doing. Like I said yesterday, I don't use Facebook really much at all anymore on the personal side of my life, because I don't really enjoy it. I find it kind of not a difficult place to navigate technology wise, but I think we've all been there where, it's just a lot of people on there that I'm not terribly close with, or I haven't been close with for 30 odd years. And I'm not all that interested in them knowing what I'm doing or what I'm up to, other than, my close friends or people who I was best friends with, obviously, when I was a kid. That's a bit different. But sort of general acquaintances who sort of seem to make their way onto your page. And, well, life is just tricky, isn't it? Sometimes. And I think a large part of the joy and community in the stitching community is that we keep it all about the stitching. And we keep it away from subjects that are, notorious for causing fights in marriage, right? So we'll stay away from money. We'll stay away from politics. We'll stay away from religion. Let's share our stitching, and let's just come together as a community and enjoy that. And speaking of coming together, this is worth the price of admission alone to the Facebook group. 2 of our members last week discovered that they lived close enough to each other to meet for a stitching lunch date. Can you believe that? South Carolina, 2 of our members, Laura and Pam, met each other for the first time last week. And judging from the enormous smiles on their faces in their photograph that they shared, I think it was a success. I think they had a good time. How cool is that, you guys? Seriously, how cool is that? That is so fun. Anyways. Okay, so I still had a few questions left over from the posting that I posted last week about, did anyone have any questions they wanted me to answer? A few questions came through after I had done the recording, so I said I would talk about them today, which I will. Let me just sew this end in. Bury my thread. Okay. Let's see. I have a list of the questions. I just have to bring it up so that I get everybody's name right and assign you to the right question, and I don't forget anybody. If I've missed anything, if I ever miss anything, or I don't get your question, or I don't answer your question, please just bug me again. I get a lot of email now, I'm doing Instagram and Facebook, and I'm telling you, it is a ton of fun, but I am worried that I'm going to miss someone, because I would hate for you to think that I was ignoring you or not answering your questions on purpose, because nothing could be further from the truth. Unless I miss something, I'm going to do my best to answer it. Okay, so I had a lovely Instagram message sent to me a couple of days ago from a fellow Canadian, and she is out on the West Coast. And now she says that her Instagram name is Island Artist 2016. And now I believe she may have a private account. I can't quite remember. But if she doesn't, anyways, you can check her out. She is out on the West Coast, and I'm gathering from her Instagram name. And also she told me she lives on an island. Now I'm wondering, now her name is Jacqueline. So Jacqueline, is that Victoria? Are you living on the big island there, or is it one of the smaller ones that we don't know about? Maybe you could tell us more. Folks, Canada is an incredible place, really stunningly beautiful place. And coast to coast, the West Coast, central Canada with our prairies, we have it all. We've got mountains, we have foothills, we have prairies, we have a fruit belt where I live in Niagara that produces fruit and vegetables that rival anything that you can find in California. We just can't do it year round. Though we're getting better with our greenhouse system here. We've got Quebec with our language. We're a bilingual country. We have our East Coast with its stunning views and vistas and topography, and Newfoundland, Labrador. We have Stitcher members. We have friends. I've mentioned Patty in Newfoundland and Labrador before. She has some cross stitch designs on her Etsy shop, which I have linked to before. And Patty, if you are watching this tonight, feel free to link to your shop again in the comments below. And if I see it come up, I'll pop it in the description box for you. We have a new member who joined the Facebook group from Nova Scotia, and I apologize, I cannot remember your first name. But folks, we are finding our Canadian members, and I know there's lots of people from Ontario as well, which is where I'm from. Folks, it's a gorgeous place. So that was a long-winded way to say that I was excited to meet someone from the West Coast as well. And she had a question for me. Jacqueline had a question for me, and it was, how many hours per day do you spend on stitching? Are you able to just jump in and stitch, or does the laundry, dishes, household chores, etc. need to be done first before you can relax and stitch? I thought that was a pretty great question. Well, let's see. How do I answer that? How many hours per day do I stitch? I could not put a time on it because I'm going to generalize that. I'm going to broaden the scope of that question to include knitting and sewing as well. But I'm not going to include business sewing. I'm not going to include Evertote sewing. I'm going to include, all of my hobby crafting. So knitting, stitching, and sewing, and eventually weaving, right? Because I'm going to get after that loom. I couldn't put an hour total on it because every spare minute that I have, literally any spare minute that I have, because I am a very, very busy person, any minute that I have is spent doing this. Hobbies, crafts, knitting, stitching. And I find that if I don't find at least some time to do something every day, it really, really affects my mood. And I know that I think you all understand. It's become such an important part of my life, just that sitting down. And just listen to this for a minute. Just listen. Did you hear that? That sound? That sound is like almost the same type of relaxation that you would feel sitting outside on the beach on a sunny day reading a book. You know, that just that ultimate relaxation feel. And so the ability to just take 5 or 10 minutes here and there and sit down and focus on something so completely that it takes your mind away from all of your troubles is pretty much the best feeling in the world. So I spend as much time as I possibly can every day doing whatever it is that I can do. I do have to do, I have to be an adult. So, you know, my children need to be fed. My children need to have clothes to wear. So eventually I'll have to take myself to the shopping mall or the grocery store, which I loathe, but I do it. I have to do it. We need to function. I have to work, so I need to teach my students. I need to schedule all of my work. I have to do paperwork for John's business. So I can't really not do any of that stuff. So I guess my crafting time is measured more in bits and pieces. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. You know, at lunchtime, needing a break from the computer screen on a day where I'm doing paperwork, I'll knit a row or a round on a sock. I also am a terrible night owl, and that's when I get most of my crafting done. I will stay up obscenely late, way past when I should have gone to bed, because I also get up very early in the morning. I don't sleep a lot. That's an honest answer right there. I really don't sleep very much. I probably average in between, on a bad night, 3.5 to 4 hours. On a good night, 6 hours. 6 hours is a great night. But if I go to bed too early, I don't sleep well. If I go to bed later, then I sleep much more soundly for the amount of time that I'm in bed. And I always feel a lot more rested that way. So I guess, I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. How many hours? I don't really have an answer. My answer is as much time as humanly possible every day, every single day, because there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. But I am still a responsible adult, and I do all of my other stuff as well. It's just fit it in when I can. So that was Jacqueline's question, and I know it was kind of a roundabout answer, but I think I got there in the end. So let's see, what else have we got? Leah Sydney wanted to know, have you ever thought of designing? Great question, Leah. And the answer is yes. Yes, I have. And in fact, I'll let you all in on a little secret. I have actually designed a little teeny tiny piece just recently. I have been playing around with Mac Stitch, which is the version of PC Stitch for the Mac. And I have been playing around with that. And I came up with a little something. And a few people have been sent that little something to try out and to test out, because I wanted to see, you know, the capabilities of this program and how there's a learning curve, as there is with anything, and figuring out how to make it work, and for someone to receive a PDF of what I have done and be able to follow the instructions, etc. So I have done a little design. I have a feeling my good friend Adrian is currently actively working on hers, and I think she may share a little photo of it tonight in the Facebook group, if I'm not mistaken. One of my friends has already finished it, and that would be Crafty Kim. Crafty Kim finished my little chart the very next day after I sent it to her. That girl has a blazing needle. She is seriously the most accomplished, fastest stitcher I've ever met. She's amazing. Her finishes, her whips and her finishes are incredible. So if you are not watching her Floss Tube channel yet, you would love to see her stitching. That's Crafty Kim with a K. So it's Krafty Kim. Crafty Kim. And she's one of the nicest people I've ever met. So go check her out. She has a load of videos, a ton of progress, and she's just a fantastic stitcher. She finished the design. So I might share it on Monday in its entirety. You might get a sneak peek from Adrian's if you're on the Facebook group tonight. But I will share the entire design on Monday. I am going to be offering it as a freebie. It's just a small little thing. It's cute. It's fun. And I do not have aspirations to become a designer. Let's get that very, very clear. I am doing this for some fun, who knows what's going to happen in the future. But that is not, that's not really a road I want to travel down. Not because I don't enjoy doing it, but it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And I have major respect for cross-stitch designers. And I think this is a really perfect time to put in a plug for, hey folks, let's not photocopy patterns. Let's pay the designers for their patterns, because man, do they earn it. Don't share. Well, I mean, we all have passed the stash, and that, I guess I do that too. One pattern here or there. But 99% of the things that I stitch are patterns that I purchase. And the rest are either a gift or a pattern that someone has stitched and they've passed on. And it's very few of those. But pay those designers, because we want them to keep coming out with more designs, don't we? More and more designs. Okay, how are we doing here? How about we do the fill-in on this little section here? I think I can do that without messing it up. There's 3 there. And then it does go all the way along the top. Okay, so I can fill that in and talk. Definitely paying those designers for their patterns is well worth it. It's hard work. But anyways, I'll talk about the little design that I did up on Monday, and I'll share it with you. I just have to figure out how to make it available as a PDF generally for general download. I mean, obviously I know how to email it, but I'm not quite sure how to make it available. I will probably put it up somehow on my blog, but I don't really know how to do that yet. And I know that seems silly because it's probably dead simple. I've just never done anything like that before. So, but I'm fairly intelligent. I think I can figure it out. Whether it's up for Monday or not, I don't know. We'll see. So I might end up just emailing it out to people who really would like it. Okay, so Leah, that was to answer to you, have you ever thought of designing? So next is Linda. And Linda asks, is there anything stitch-wise that overwhelms you? What technique have you wanted to try but haven't gotten far? Are there patterns out there that you look at and say, no way am I doing that? It looks too complicated. Great question, Linda. And my answer to you is no. There's nothing there. In fact, when I see a pattern that is complicated or hard or tricky or, full coverage or you name it, I'm usually drawn to it like like a magnet. If it's big or hard or challenging, I want to stitch it. I want to try it. Now, there have been a few things where I have done that and not really enjoyed it. So my progress is probably less than stellar. I'm going to put it right out there. I started a Heaven and Earth design. Oh boy, probably shortly after Sarah was born. So she's almost 17. So that was a long time ago. And it's the Big Bears Falls. Oops, I can feel I've got a knot on the back. Hang on. Big Bears Falls. Big Bear Falls? I can't remember the full title, but that was the pattern I did. And it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a landscape piece of a waterfall. And it is stunning. And I started it on, I'm sure it's a 25 count, even weave, 1/1. But the fabric that I was using is very floppy. It's very loose. And I didn't really love working on it. And I kind of abandoned it. And I don't abandon much. I'm the kind of person who, if I'm reading a book, even if I hate it, I have to finish it. Strange, but true. And I don't know if I'm ever going to finish this Heaven and Earth design. It's really from my stash pile. Maybe I'll show that on Monday as well. The little bit that I've done. I've done mostly, blue sky. The shape of that Heaven and Earth is done in an oval. And the top of the oval is, the top of the picture is a blue cloudy sky. So, it would be absolutely phenomenal if I did it, but it doesn't intimidate me though. I just didn't love doing it. That's the kind of thing where I would absolutely love the finished project. And you know what? I probably, if I got myself more into it, did a little bit more of the design, spent more time on it, I suspect I would change my tune. I tend to be a bit fickle that way. So, who knows? Anyways, the other technique that I have tried that I felt slightly intimidated by was hardanger. I can do hardanger. I'm not very good at it. And so I don't tend to practice it very much because I don't know. I like cross stitching and needlework, embroidery more. So hardanger, I started a table runner a few years ago. I have a feeling I'm going to repurpose the fabric for stitching instead, because I don't see myself ever finishing the tablecloth. And not only that, it was so super impractical. It's a totally white table runner with, white thread. And it would be gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But would I ever put it on my table? We'd probably spill red wine on it in like 10 minutes. So I have a feeling that's going to be a miss. But it's beautiful fabric. I will reuse it for something else. But I think I'm going to give up on that one. But I can do hardanger. When I say I'm intimidated by it, I'm not sure that's the right word. I think it's more a question of I just don't love doing it. So, hang on a sec. Sorry about that. That was my husband knocking on the door. And he had a question for me, so I had to help him out, and now I've completely lost my train of thought. I know I was talking about hardanger, and I was talking about the table runner that I'm never ever in a million years going to complete. So other than that, I think I've answered most of your question, Linda. There's not much that I won't try, and there's not much that I don't love to do. I would say it's degrees of whether I like to do them. There's nothing I hate doing. Anyway, good question. So let's see what else we've got here. Melissa asked, she says, I see that Thread and I sells the roll-a frames. Have you used them? There's a lot of mixed opinions on them. Just wondering your thoughts on them if you have. So they're called a rolla frame. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and obviously it's going to become very clear that I have never used one. The rolla frame, the rolla frame is the one where the scroll rods come apart and there's like a strip of tacks that you can stick the fabric in and then put the top of the rod back on, and so then you don't have to sew your fabric to the frame. And I apparently it's supposed to keep the fabric, because it's quite straight, a little bit more tight, drum tight than other frame styles. I have never used one. I do know that Kathy of Thread and I, Kathy, one of the owners, she uses one, and I do know that she really enjoys hers. Other than that, I have no other information on the rolla frame. So if anyone else does use one or have used one and you have an opinion on the rolla frame, leave a comment below, and maybe we can spark a discussion down there. That would be kind of cool. Okay. Joan Adams, and I believe this is my friend Joan from Montreal, who wants to know, what's the best way to rip out stitches? And second question is, has anyone bought the wooden hoop stand at Michael's, and is it worth it? I have never used the wooden hoop stand from Michael's, so if anyone else has and can answer Joan's question, leave it below. The wooden hoop stand from Michael's. But the first part of her question, what's the best way to rip out stitches? Well, I think that's a pretty individual thing. I know how I rip out. What did I do here? Is this right? To check my pattern. Hang on a second. Yes, it does do that. Okay. All right. Moving on. What is the best way to rip out stitches? Normally the way that I do it, because I stitch when I rip out differently depending on which way I'm stitching. When I'm stitching this way, where my needle is trapped in, at the end of the loop of thread, if I've only done one or two stitches and they're out in the middle, I will simply sew them backwards so as to unsew them. But in something like this, that would be disastrous. And I think, you know what? Earlier when I was talking about the off the grid people, I got distracted by talking about the coffee break, and I missed a bunch. I missed Michelle, of course, Michelle Bendy Stitchy on Sunday, who does the Sunday brunch. Don't miss hers. And Linda does an overseas happy hour, and we've also got Carolina's doing videos. Yanni does videos. Please, there is a huge list of Stitch With Me videos on the Facebook group to check out. And that leads me back to Michelle Bendy Stitchy, who in one of her episodes where she and Ginger Gerald were visiting each other, they were talking about this way of stitching. And she said when the needle is there, she felt trapped. And she didn't really enjoy it. And I can totally understand that, because, if you do make a massive mistake, you are pretty much trapped. And so the way that I rip out those stitches, I clip the thread from the needle and I use I'll show you. Why not, right? Oh, maybe I'll show you one that's longer. You know what? I'm not going to purposely make mistakes today. That seems like asking for trouble. So I'm just going to explain it. I would clip the thread here, and then I would use my needle. And if you can see, I would go leg by leg of my stitch. And so I would put my needle under the top leg, and then I would pull that out until it was free. And then I would use my needle to pull out the second leg. And when you're, in a rhythm, it doesn't take that long. It's quite a quick thing to do, to rip out stitches. It's a bit disheartening to rip out stitches, but totally doable. Now, I have seen other people talking about this wonderful looking seam ripper that has a sort of silicone end to it, where they use the seam ripper and they run it under the stitches, and then they flip it over and use the silicone end to remove the thread, which sounds like a tool that I'm going to have to maybe look into purchasing for myself, because that kind of sounds kind of fun, and probably something that might be useful in my sewing, because if you've ever used a sewing machine, you know that you should keep your seam ripper right next to it. Anyway, there, that's it. That's that. Done. Sew that in. We are zipping along here. So that was Joan's question. And let's see, what else? Trish from the Facebook group wanted to know, do you still have the very first item that you cross-stitched? And could you show it if possible? Well, I do not have the very first item that I cross-stitched because I gave it to my mom. And that was the pincushion design that I talked about before, that I received the kit from my local museum in the small town where I grew up. And I did eventually finish that pincushion, and I gave it to my mom. I think I gave it to her as a birthday gift, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if she still has it. And Mom, if you're watching this, give me a call. Let me know. I think she still has it. Ooh, little tangent here. Really, little tangent. Guys, my glasses, my new progressive glasses, I don't have to look over the top of them to thread my needle anymore. I just totally blew my mind when I looked down and I'm like, I can see that. I can actually thread my needle without looking over the top of my glasses. That just totally made my day. That's the greatest thing ever about these glasses. Shocking. Okay, where was I? First project. Pretty sure my mom has it. I hope she still has it. If she doesn't, I wouldn't blame her. It's one of those things. But if she still has it, I am headed up there in a few weeks to get some work done with Kathy, and maybe I'll pop by and maybe she'll lend it to me for a few weeks and I can share it with you guys. It's quite a cute pincushion. I had one final question, and this one I did already answer her on the Facebook group, but in case anyone else was interested, I thought I would just mention it again. So this was, and I apologize if I'm saying your name incorrectly, Bazia. And Bazia asks, what kind of fabric do you use for EPP, English paper piecing? I'm willing to start, and I don't know what kind of fabric I should choose. And she wanted to know where I get my fabric from, eBay, Etsy, or shops here in London. That's a great question. So basically, in a nutshell, the kind of fabrics that I use are generally quilting cotton. So 100% cotton fabrics is what I generally tend to gravitate towards when I'm doing English paper piecing. That's what I use. Other people might use different things. I know that you can do it with leftover clothing and things like that, little bits of memorabilia. I can't imagine it would be a very easy thing to do with materials like t-shirt fabrics and things like that. That would probably drive me insane because it's such a floppy material. I'm sure it could be done, but the fabric that I use is cotton. And where do I get my fabric? Well, I get my fabric all over the place. I don't have a specific place. If I find one that I love, that's a good price. I have to be cognizant of price when I'm buying fabric for the store, for the shop, for making bags for Evertote. I have to be aware of how much I'm spending in Canada, we are metric. So we buy our fabric by the meter. In the States, I know you buy it by the yard. So I have to look for fabric that is under a certain dollar value by the meter generally. It depends on the type of bag that I'm making, because I have to factor in my time as well. So when you factor in time spent as well as cost of materials, I can't afford to buy any fabric that I want. So that's why I have to look around. I have to make that part of the job, is to find fabric all over the place. Find places that have fabric on sale. But also it has to be fabric that appeals to me. So it's a bit of a, it takes quite a bit of time, actually. I have never bought fabric off eBay. I would be concerned. I don't know. I'm sure lots of you have had great experience. And if you knew the seller, I think that would be a little bit different. But I would be concerned about getting fabric that could possibly smell like smoke or have been stored in someone's basement and, have taken on a musty smell. And so I do buy new fabrics. I buy them sometimes online. There's a shop in Toronto. There's two small places, small shops that I love to support for fabric purchases. The first one, of course, is my favorite place is Knit Stitch here in London, Ontario. And that is spelt exactly the way it sounds, Knit Stitch. And it's one word. And the shop owner there, Suzanne, is lovely. She is phenomenal. And she's got amazing taste. Suzanne sells fabric as well as yarn, and beautiful, beautiful fabrics. And sometimes she'll have something there that I can afford for the shop. But generally the fabrics that I buy at Suzanne's are things that would be sort of a special one-off if I was looking to make a very special item. The other place that is good, small business that I like to support is just north of Toronto, west of, I can't remember. It's near Toronto, and it's called Sew Sisters, and that's SEW SISTERS. Sew Sisters. They are in Ontario. They have wonderful fabrics and excellent customer service. That's been, because I only ever order online from them. They have, that's been a really terrific place to buy fabric from. So Knit Stitch here in London, Sew Sisters. We have the usual places like Fabricland where I do go. Where else? There's a few places in the States I have bought from Connecting Threads before. I have bought from a small business in the States called Hawthorne Threads. And that's HAWTHORN. I believe there's an E on the end of that, Hawthorne. They have beautiful fabrics. So yeah, all over the place. All over the place. And you never know where you're going to find fabric. So you keep looking. And let's face it, it's kind of a fun thing to do. So, where am I at here? I think I'm going to have to leave it at that because I'm going to need to count. I don't want to continue with my line of black. I would rather fill in my color here. And I know that I have to do a bit of counting in the black bit that comes down here. So I think I'm going to sign off for this episode. I believe that I've answered everyone's questions that were outstanding. If I missed anything, if I missed anybody, please shout me. Shoot me another email. Shoot me another question. And I'll do my best to answer it on Monday when I see you again for the regular Monday update. So I can't wait to see what everybody's up to tonight. Check in on Facebook. Check in on Instagram. There is a hashtag. What is it? There's two hashtags now, I guess, which seems kind of funny, but because not everybody is participating in this craziness 6-hour marathon. And there's Stitch M, Stitch apostrophe M, E-M. Her name is Emma. She is stitching for 11 hours, folks. She's challenged herself and we kind of goaded her into it, stitching for 11 hours. And in fact, she's probably started, what time is it now? Yep, it's 1 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock my time, PM, which means it is 6 o'clock PM her time. And she was going to stitch until midnight my time. So that's 11 hours for her. So it's 1 p.m. When I sign off with you, I'm going to go check in with her and see how she's doing. So her name is Emma, and Stitch M has a floss tube channel, and she's also recording Stitch With Me videos, and she's wonderful. You're going to want to check her out. So she's going to do something quite fun if she pulls it off. She's going to try and record a few minutes at the beginning of each of her 11 hours, and we're going to witness her descent into madness, which totally makes my day. I think that is so fun. So she's just as crazy as me. She's just as crazy as you. We are all in the same party boat here, folks. So I think that is it. I never gave you the hashtags, did I? So the first one, the regular one, is hashtag off the grid Friday party. And then the other one is off the grid Friday stitch in. I believe that's it. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. That should be it. Anyways, have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy the wonderful community that is just literally a click away. And you've got company either in your ear with your headphones or on your television or on your computer or tablet or phone or however you watch. I hope you enjoy it. This is, it's a lot of work to produce these videos. It is extremely rewarding though. It is so much fun. So I really just appreciate you all. I appreciate the subscribers. If you subscribe to the channel, hitting that like button, letting the ad play at the beginning of the episode is big. That's a really easy way to say thank you without having to spend a dime, is to just let that ad play at the beginning for those who have monetized their videos. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm just very briefly going to repeat myself here. Some channels are monetized, which means that you will see an ad play at the beginning of the video. That is, YouTube creators have that ability when their channel reaches a certain level, and they can apply to have advertisers play an ad at the beginning of the video. YouTube shares a very small, and I'm saying very small, portion of that ad revenue with its YouTube creators. And so a floss tuber who has a video at the beginning of their channel is receiving a few pennies for you watching that ad. You know, just let it play if you don't mind. It's a great way to say thank you. And on that note, thank you for everything, because let me tell you, this is fun. This is so fun. It's Friday. Let's stitch. Happy stitching. I'll see you in social media all over the place. And then I'll see you again on Monday. You can't get rid of me. Have a great weekend, guys.